If you were 17 in 1971, you already knew where you'd be on Saturday night. You were heading to the Strip. Every town had one. Maybe it was Main Street. Maybe it ran past the courthouse. Maybe it cut between the diner and the A&P. Maybe it passed the movie theater with the hand-changed marquee letters and the neon that hummed after dark. But between 7 and midnight, that stretch of road belonged to engines. You washed the car that afternoon. Hose dragged across the driveway, bucket filling slow, dish soap if that's what you had, armor all on the tires, chrome wiped until it caught the sky, hubcaps polished, windows streak-free, inside and out. You vacuumed the bench seat, shook out the floor mats, maybe tucked an 8-track under the dash just in case. Once the sun dipped low and the cicadas started up and the streetlights flickered on one by one, the ritual began. You'd hear engines warming up across the neighborhood. A muffler rumble down the block, a quick rev from someone testing timing. You'd ease onto the Strip. First gear, second, idle forward, stoplight, idle again. Window cracked halfway, elbow resting on the door. One pass up, you'd pass the pharmacy, the barber shop, the Rexall, the tasty freeze where someone was already leaning against a hood pretending not to watch traffic. Turn around, one pass back, and you kept going, because it wasn't about getting somewhere. It was about being seen, about making that slow glide past the diner windows, where people inside turned their heads just slightly, about catching a glance from someone sitting on the hood of a '68 Impala. And if you were late, even by 20 minutes, you felt it, because the hierarchy had already started forming. The fastest car had already made a clean launch at the light. Somebody had already stalled and pretended it was nothing. Someone had already popped their hood in the parking lot and drawn a small crowd. You could tell who'd spent the week tuning. You could tell who was bluffing. And by your third pass, you knew exactly where you stood. Cruising didn't wait for you. You showed up ready, or you showed up behind. By the late 1950s and through the 60s and 70s, Saturday night cruising wasn't unusual. It was expected. In small towns and mid-sized cities across America, this was how young men showed up in the world. Not in a classroom, not at the dinner table, not under their parents' roof. Out there, downtown still mattered then. The movie theater was open. The soda fountain stayed busy. The diner lights glowed past 9. Parking lots were close together. Storefronts sat shoulder to shoulder. The whole town compressed into a few blocks. And that density made cruising possible. But it did something else. It created a stage. For a lot of young men, that strip of road was the first place you felt untethered. No father in the passenger seat, no coach watching from the sidelines, no teacher grading you, just you, your car, and whoever happened to be looking. Gas was cheap. Insurance wasn't crushing. Used cars were everywhere. You could buy a running Chevy, Ford, or Dodge for money you earned working after school or on summer break. And most important, you could fix it. Carburetors, steel frames, simple wiring. You learned by doing. If something rattled, you tightened it. If it sputtered, you tuned it. If it stalled, you figured it out. There was pride in that, because when you pulled onto the Strip, you weren't just driving, you were presenting. And yes, it mattered who was watching. Girls sat on hoods, leaning against fenders, sharing a soda through 2 straws at the tasty freeze. They noticed the details, the way you handled the clutch, whether the engine sounded tight or tired, whether you panicked at a green light. You didn't say much, you didn't have to. Your car spoke first. You didn't show up in something that coughed smoke and hoped no one noticed, because everyone noticed. The rumble of your exhaust mattered. The shine of your paint mattered. The way you shifted at the light mattered. That meant something. Cruising created a predictable loop. You knew the route. You knew the hangout lot. You knew who would be there. No one had to organize it. It simply happened. For a young man, cruising wasn't just driving in circles. It was calibration. You learned where you stood. Who had the fastest car? Who had the loudest engine? Who talked bigger than they drove? Who could launch clean at a green light? who stalled under pressure, and sooner or later it was your turn. You'd pull up to the light. Maybe it was outside the Rexall. Maybe it was the intersection by the bowling alley, red. You glanced sideways without turning your head too far. Maybe it was a 70 Nova. Maybe a 390 Fairlane. Maybe the same guy who beat someone last weekend. You could feel people watching. There were no trophies, no announcers, but there were witnesses. If you won a light-to-light sprint, people remembered. If your transmission slipped, they remembered that too. Reputation accumulated one lap at a time. It required nerve. It required timing. It required mechanical understanding. And it required presence. And then something subtle started happening. You'd make your second pass, and a patrol car would fall in behind you. No sirens, no lights, just there. At first you told yourself it didn't matter, but your hands shifted slightly on the wheel. You checked your speed. The revs dropped lower than usual. You weren't just cruising anymore. You were being watched, not every night, not at first, but enough to notice, enough that the easy feeling, the sense that the strip belonged to you, tightened just a little. By the early 1970s, pressure started building around the edges. At first, it didn't look connected. It looked like small inconveniences. The first time you pulled up to the gas pump and stopped at $5 instead of filling the tank. The first time your father raised an eyebrow and said, "Gas isn't cheap anymore." The first time your insurance bill came in higher than you expected. But something was tightening. Cruising had always depended on abundance, cheap fuel, spare time, loose supervision. When those shrink, habits feel different. Then, the oil crisis hit. Fuel prices jumped fast. Excited and happy engines that once sounded powerful now sounded expensive. You started calculating laps. Maybe you didn't circle 12 times. Maybe you did 6. It didn't feel harmless anymore. Insurance companies recalculated risk. Performance cars weren't just admired, they were flagged. Premiums climbed. Owning a car just to show it off became harder to justify. And when cost rises high enough, repetition fades. Then came the tickets. At first it was just warnings. Move along. Don't block the intersection. Then some towns made it official. 2 passes through the same light within an hour. 3 passes, then a ticket. Cruising relied on the loop. The laws targeted the loop directly. You'd make your 3rd pass and see an officer writing something down. You'd look at your watch. You'd consider heading home early, not because you wanted to, because it wasn't worth the hassle. Police were no longer just watching, they were managing. Business owners complained about blocked driveways. Residents complained about noise. What once felt like harmless youth started being described as disruption. And once something is labeled a problem, it rarely goes back to being normal. Freedom didn't disappear. It narrowed. At the same time, the town itself was changing. New shopping centers opened on the edge of town. The mall had air conditioning. The mall had brighter lights. The mall had security guards and food courts. Main Street dimmed a little. Parking lots spread farther apart. Instead of one tight corridor, everything stretched outward. The strip lost its density. Without that compression, the rhythm broke. Cars changed too. Engines became more complicated. Hoods weren't opened as casually in driveways. Emissions controls, vacuum lines, electronics creeping in. You could still work on them, but it wasn't as simple. The barrier rose, and then entertainment moved indoors. More television channels, more options, arcades inside malls, later video games, later still computers. Cruising required presence. You had to leave the house. You had to spend gas. You had to risk embarrassment. New entertainment required none of that. Staying home cost less, carried less risk, demanded less preparation. The comparison grew harder to ignore. It's easy to say cruising ended because of gas prices or ordinances. Cruising created visible hierarchy, clear winners, clear losers, measured in horsepower, reaction time, composure. Modern competition is quieter, online, filtered. Back then, the quarter mile between 2 stoplights had clarity. You knew, and so did everyone else. Cruising also created local identity. You knew the faces, the cars, the reputations. If someone tuned an engine all week and showed up Saturday night, everyone saw the effort. Reputation spread block by block. Today it spreads globally. Back then it felt personal, and there was something else. The sound, engines idling under sodium streetlights, the smell of gasoline and warm asphalt, neon reflections bending across polished chrome. That atmosphere belonged to a moment when public space felt accessible, when young men measured themselves not through screens, but through skill, preparation, presence. Cruising wasn't rebellion for most, it was structure. The Strip didn't close, it simply stopped mattering. Cruising had thrived under specific conditions: cheap fuel, affordable cars, loose enforcement, dense downtown streets, mechanical simplicity, public tolerance. When those shifted, the ritual contracted. Interest didn't vanish, the structure did, and without structure, ritual fades. Ask someone who cruised in 1969 what they drove. They'll tell you. Ask what song was on the radio. They'll remember. Ask who sat beside them. They won't hesitate. Because cruising wasn't just transportation. It was a proving ground, a public classroom lit by streetlights. So I'm curious. Did your town have a strip? What was it called? What year was your first car? Did you rebuild it yourself? Did you ever get ticketed for too many passes? Did you ever win a light-to-light run? And when did it change in your town? Was there a final Saturday night? Or did it fade so slowly you didn't notice until years later? Because for a few decades, Saturday night cruising wasn't rare. It was normal, and if you were there, the sound of engines idling under streetlights isn't something you forget.